and welcome to day 2 of the 6 Dimensions to Loving Yourself Well. I'm Linda Cooper, and I'm going to be covering the issues that we discussed in the introduction to the programme. How to raise your energetic vibration and use thoughts and words to improve your health and well-being. We're going to explore how your mind influences your body and discuss the bioscience of emotions and thoughts. Then we're going to have a look at understanding the benefits of meditation and how you can use it to control your thoughts, to do it for your health and well-being. Then we're going to help you gain insight into how culture affects our bodies. Let's start. I am so excited to be doing this. Metaphysics is I think it's the most exciting aspect of the whole programme of How to Love Yourself Well. I'll give you first my definition, which is about mind, how mind affects body, and how some people call it mind over matter, but it's not quite mind over matter, though it is mind affecting matter. And I'll explain that as we go along, because it's that thing about misconceptions, and they'll come up as we go along. I first started to wonder when I was a nurse about the fact that some people, there could be 2 patients in the ward, beds next to each other, one would recover and the other wouldn't. Both had the same condition, both were the same age, and both had the same treatment. So why? Why would that happen? And it's always been one of those wonders to me. So one of the things that it's likely to be is that it's the programming within their mind that from past programming that's affected them. So if you think back to when we did the 3 C's and we were looking at where we learned our programming from, it's about the different programming that different people take in different ways that then has a different outcome. And that outcome has an impact on your cells. Now then, some people call this sort of talking woo-woo. But there is now a research-based science coming through that's called bioscience that examines all these factors and the way in which our thoughts can impact on ourselves. And they're examining, I call it the power of thoughts, the magic that comes with the way we think, and how if we can change our thinking, we can change the outcomes in our bodies. And science is beginning to show that this is what can happen. I first experienced this myself when I was in my 20s and having my baby, which is 1 or 2 years ago. So I had a pregnancy mantra. My mantra was, this is my baby, this is my body, and I'm in control. And I had this thing about I was going to have her 2 weeks early and I was going to have her naturally. And I did all the reading about the way in which you can do natural childbirth, and I recognised that one of the most important things I could do was ignore other people's programming. So I had a little mantra that it was, this is my body, this is my baby, and I'm in control. And if anybody told me anything that was the opposite, I'd go, delete that program. This is my body, this is my baby, and I'm in control. And I did that through the whole of the 9 months. Well, not quite 9 months, because I had her 2 weeks early, because that's what I said I would do. So then I also said I wanted natural childbirth, and I didn't want the interference with doctors, because the evidence showed that the more doctors were involved, the more complications that they had. You could still argue it's the other way around. The more complications you have, the more doctors there are. But vice versa, I just chose to believe it was better not to have medical intervention unless it was absolutely necessary. So when I said this, my sister said, well, that's easy, you'll go into labour at night. I says, what do you mean? She says, well, there's not as many doctors on at night and you won't have that hassle. So you'll go into labour at night. And guess what I did? 11:45, I went into labour at night, and I went into labour on the day that I said I would. Now, all you mothers out there are going to be going, that can't possibly happen. And it may happen for you, it may not happen for you. It happened for me. And the important thing was that that's what counted. So I got a reflection in my outside world to my thoughts from inside. And now I have a question. Where do you think your mind is? Deepak Chopra believes it's in every cell of your body. You might believe that it's in your brain, you might think it's in your guts, you might think it's in the cells of your body. It's really quite a weird question to ask, but your mind is the part of you that's connected to consciousness, and your consciousness is in every cell of your body. Let's start looking at some examples. In bioscience, you know that the skin replaces itself every 28 days. So how does it know what to replace itself with? One of the things is that we have a blueprint of the perfect body. And I call it, Deepak Chopra's books call it homeostasis. I call it blueprint. I like it, that thing about what's perfect. When you have perfect health, what is your body? And it sort of sets the set point as your blueprint. So your blueprint is when you get back to your healthy, wonderful self. If you are thinking thoughts that are not healthy, or if it's been affected, then you can get an eruption on your skin. Strangely, it's not the other way around. The eruption of blemishes on your skin, acne, is associated with low self-esteem. And it comes from the low self-esteem that causes the eruptions, not the eruptions that cause low self-esteem. That's the sort of questioning that I want you to be able to start thinking about. Does it have to be that it's the environment causing our illness, or could it be that you can find that beautiful thing that changes what happens inside your head? So what if you could overcome past conditioning, use your thoughts and beliefs and consciousness, change your culture, and then change the way that your body responds? Because your body is not the same body now that it was yesterday. It's not the same body that it was last year. So now you're going to go, yeah, so tell me something I didn't know. Of course it's not the same body. But let's think about this. Your body is a process. It's not like a suitcase. A suitcase, you take on holiday. You take the same suitcase every time, and it's not changed much unless you've been in a downpour and it's ruined it that way, or somebody's pulled something out about it. But it's not regenerated. It doesn't have any new additions to it unless you've tied some fancy ribbon to it. So a suitcase remains the same. There's no controlling your mind over matter in that sort of way, in the same way that you can over the cells in your body. Because your body is a process, and it recycles at atomic, cellular, and tissue levels. So you can change it back to your blueprint. That's the beginning and where you want it. How? You do it by connecting to consciousness. You connect to your higher self. You experience full unconditional love. And as an example, Anita Mujari in her book, Dying to Be Me, talked about all her thoughts and negative feelings that she had about herself before she experienced cancer. She had cancer which took her to the very end point where all her organs were closing. And she had this out-of-body experience where she could see what they were saying, and she was technically dying. Well, she wasn't technically dying, she was dying. She was on this, is she, isn't she, level. And she had an near-death experience, and she came back fully understanding that love changes everything. She accessed that love during that experience. And when she came back, her body started to heal. Not from treatment, not from anything else. It spontaneously started to heal. Once it started to heal, of course, they gave her treatment, because that's what doctors do, because they think, well, it has to be something and we've got to help it along, but it doesn't actually need to do that. So when you think about it, do you want to wait until you're at near death before you begin to impact on your cells, or do you want to do it now? Let's consider your stomach cells. The lining of your stomach replaces itself every 5 days. So technically a stomach ulcer can be replaced in every 5 days. Your liver, 6 weeks. All of your cells in your liver have been recycled and new cells in their place. So you have a new liver every 6 weeks. You have a new skin every 28 days and new skeleton every 3 months. Makes sense when you think how long it takes a bone to heal. But the bit that most people aren't aware of is that your genes, the genetics, the things that we're told are the things that shapes our DNA and changes our life and shapes how well we are and what illnesses we get, your genes change. They are 6 weeks that they are new material going through them, because it changes at an atomic level as well as at a cellular level. So when you think about it, your suitcase goes the same time every time, but you take a new body every time you go on holiday. Now, how amazing is that? Because that gives you the chance to know that in any given year, you can create a whole new you. So where is the blueprint? Where is it kept? It's kept in consciousness. And that's about this thing about the mind, body, spirit. This is where the metaphysics comes in. And this is where they are beginning to measure the things that can happen. And the things that can happen in relation to our genes and the way in which our genetic patterns are either triggered or changed is the science of epigenetics. And it's showing that we can actually change at this level by our thoughts and emotions. If you think about it, if you think about your links to the endocrine system, if you think about your emotions, when your emotions are all in tears, you get a change in your body. Think about stress, that's the easiest one. So our emotions link to our endocrine system and our nervous system, and it causes a change. Our endocrine system and our nervous system affects every cell in our bodies. So you begin to see that this all begins to make sense, that you can actually begin to love yourself well by the experience of peace and calm and changing your thoughts. So if we look at the parasympathetic and sympathetic nervous system, the parasympathetic nervous system, which is when we are resting, is in operation when we are having fun, when we are resting, and that's when we are healing. Conversely, if the sympathetic nervous system is in operation, that's when we are stressed. That's when we are thinking about the saber-toothed tiger that's chasing us, that's not caught us yet. And we get all of these hormones washing through the body. So you have a choice. And if you don't go stop, because that's the point, stop at this point, take a deep breath. You've heard the things about take a deep breath. It then begins to change to move you back physiologically into the parasympathetic system. And then you can begin to change the way you think. Stop and change and think, change your thoughts. So that's how we do it. So we are absolutely blessed at this moment in knowing that metaphysics, the study of metaphysics through epigenetics and the bioscience research, is actually showing us that we can heal our bodies, and we can heal our bodies of some very serious conditions. Now, another way to access your blueprint and to make sure that you're connecting to your higher self and allowing healing to happen in your body is through meditation. Now, there are different kinds of meditations. There are meditations that are doing sitting in silence, and you don't have to do anything like this, sitting like this or anything like that, just sitting in silence. You can meditate while walking. You can meditate while laying down in your bed just before you go to sleep. Meditation doesn't have to be at a set point. It's more about a level of mindfulness. So by concentrating on the breathing, just breathing gently in and out, that's a form of meditation. If you do it for just 3 minutes, that's a meditation that you've done. So there's no excuses for not having enough time. A 3-minute meditation has been shown to have an impact. I tend to do 10 minutes, and recently I've been doing longer ones. It allows you to take control of your thoughts. And I like guided meditations. And I'd invite you now to complete the guided meditation called The Healing Journey, which is one of the gifts that comes with this course, because it's a beautiful way to meditate, and it's a beautiful way to set your body up to begin healing. And you'll come out feeling calm, peaceful, and you'll be able to access that wellness and love. Right, let's go on then once you've done your meditation. I'd like to talk some more about epigenetics now and neuroplasticity. Neuroplasticity is where your pathways in your brain are being rewired. If you do the same things all of the time, your brain just automatically does it. It takes over automatically. You don't even have to think about it. If you think about the example of learning how to drive, when you first started driving, you had to have it up in conscious awareness, knowing exactly what you were doing, feet on the pedals, putting the clutch in, getting into gear. For you Americans, you don't know what a gear is. It's a stick, as you call it, moving the car into gear, ready to set off. So then, now you get in the car and you just drive. And it's one of those things that becomes an unconscious thing because of the pathways that we create. And unfortunately, in some ways, our habits and our bad habits become the same. So, for example, if you have a habit of thinking stressful thoughts, then your stressful thoughts will automatically come to mind when you don't really want them to. So, what we need to do is to find a way for you to develop a good route, a reroute, a healthier route, and a more positive way to look at things. And there are lots of ways that you can do that. It's what we say to ourselves is possibly one of the most common patterns that we follow, where I often find myself saying, Linda, you stupid thing. And then I go, actually, no, I am not stupid. I am far from stupid. And I realise that if I kept saying it, that's what I would be and act like. So when it comes up and I hear it, because first level is always awareness, then I stop and then I correct it. And over time, you begin to realise, how you can do this easily just by paying attention to what's happening inside your head. Some of you may have had our book, Words That Harm and Words That Heal, and it's a brilliant way to do some of the exercises that looks at what you're actually saying to yourself and the way in which what you say changes the things inside your head, inside your body. So what we need to do is to find different routes. Now I'd like to show you an example of the way our brain wires ourselves. So for example, if you fold your arms one way, once you've folded it one way, now I'd like you to just fold them the other. Could you do it? Was it easy? I can remember when I first tried to do this, I couldn't. I actually found myself going back to the normal way. And I couldn't even tell you what my normal way is anymore because I'm so used to doing both of them. I think that one's my normal. That one's my normal. So it's about opening new pathways because our brain works on automatic things. It's how the supermarkets use things. So think about it. If you want to, you can rewire for crossing your arms. The supermarkets deliberately make us rewire because they have the shelves in a certain layout for a length of time and then, wham, they've changed it. And they do it on purpose because they know that when you know your route through the supermarket, you only pick up what you want to pick up. And you don't go down the other aisles where you might pick something up that they want extras that they want you to get. So if they know, so every so often things will change around and you have to go, where's the milk today? To find it. So they bring you back into conscious awareness of having to find things and not just running around. So one of the things that you can do on a regular basis is think about how to change a pattern. So think about the patterns that we run. An example would be a new route to work. So that you can go to find, if you automatically go by the same route every day, then your head does go into automatic. I can remember we were staying at a friend's for a month earlier on this year. And during that month, I accidentally found myself halfway up to my home. And it was like, how did that happen? And it was just because I'd gone back into, I'm on automatic. So I had a bit of a longer route back to our friends that day. The other way that we can do it is that you can do affirmations. Affirmations are where you make a statement about yourself, about the things that about the things that you want. You know, I had an affirmation when I was pregnant. I think I mentioned it earlier. This is my body, this is my baby, and I'm in control. So that was my affirmation throughout pregnancy. So that's the thing that you can do. Have an affirmation that means something to you and just repeat it so that you then begin to put in the things that you want to go into your head. Now, affirmations do have a mixed success. Part of the reason is because we have so many strongly embedded roots within our brain. It's a bit like walking through a forest and trying to take a new path every day. You can't, it's hard work creating new pathways. It's not straightforward. So you will automatically go back to the easy pathway that's there. So no matter how many times you go through that new little route, if there's another really well-trodden path, it's very easy for it to slip over. And that's why affirmations can have a mixed success. So there is a way in which you can make the best of an affirmation. One of the ways in which to make the best of an affirmation is to make sure that you say them in the morning. So say your positive statements about yourself first thing every morning. It's when you wake up having been in neutral through the night. So you haven't got anything actively running at that point. So simply say the nice happy things that you want to say at that point, and it has more impact. I have a wonderful little thing that I read when I get to work that's part of what Abraham Hicks programs are. I actually just read that out and I read it out loud, and it just takes me straight to where I want to be, knowing that I'm at source, knowing that I'm supported, knowing that all is well in my world, and that my intuition is on form, and all those sorts of things. And I just read it aloud. And now I don't even have to read it aloud, I just have to read it, and it makes me smile because our brains, I've got my pathways going. So just reading it gets me into the state that I want to be ready to start the day that I'm at work. So that's one little thing that you can do. So first thing in the morning, change your route, that's the other one. And the other thing about doing this is you are deprogramming, and there are some positive ways in which to deprogram. Another is where I've said earlier on about when something happens, and it's really important when you realise you are doing something. So for example, when you hear the negative comments coming out of your mouth, there's an active thing to do, and it's stop. Stop. Pay attention. Awareness is the issue. Stop. And then state 5 positives that are the opposite, because you want to get that neuroplasticity going in the opposite direction and not automatically keep going back to that same one. And if you do that every time the negative thought sneaks in, it begins to create a new pathway, because the new pathway is then negative thoughts stop automatically into new pathway. So you're creating new pathways each time. So awareness, pay attention, take action. Now I'd like to talk about the things that you need to do, which is the example of things that happen when you are having a good day versus having a bad day. So, for example, we talked about metaphysics being the as within, so without. When things are going badly around you, that is a reflection of what's happening inside you. So that's the point at which we talked about stop when you've said something negative to yourself. Now this is the time where you can actually make a decision to do something differently. So for example, when you wake up and the day is a good day, think about what happens on those good days. It's amazing. You get out of bed, it feels like the sun's shining, even if it's not, because you're waking up, you've had a good night's sleep, you're happy, you get in the car, traffic goes well, you get to work, you have the meeting, the person that you're with actually says what you wanted them to say, you haven't even had to think about it, they make the suggestion that you'd been thinking about, and everything is so good. That's what people describe as in flow. And when you're in flow, it feels like nothing can go wrong. And if it does, you just go, hey, and then go round it and do something else. Even if the traffic is bad on an in-flow day, you just sit and enjoy the music. And it's that thing about being in the moment, happy, and that's the point at which your vibration's good. And when your vibration's good, that's when you are manifesting the good things that you want. And it's when your body is in a healing mode. It's like when I was diagnosed with an illness. One of the things that I did, and one of my husband did, we just watched happy films. We didn't watch anything else. So when you're in the flow, you know you're in the flow, it's a good day. What about if it's a bad day? What about you've got out of bed, it's late, you've overlaid. As soon as you've overlaid, you get it in the car and you know that the traffic's going to be bad. And not only is it bad, it's infuriating you, you're angry, you're harassed. You know that there's a meeting that you're going to be late for, that you've not got time to prepare for. You get in, the computer says no. I love it when computer says no when you're annoyed, because it's like it knows. It knows that you're not in flow today. I'm an electric item and I'm going to pick that up and do what you need. Because it's this as within, so without. Our universe around us reflects what's happening. And then you go into the things like tired self-talk. Oh, I'm so tired to do that. Oh, I feel too bad to do that today. And it's really, really a thing. And there's a point sometimes where you just have to go, actually, I'm going to stop this now. In the same way that you stop when you raise awareness that you've said something inappropriate to yourself, when you're having what you call a bad day, decide, stop, I'm not having a bad day. That's just a thought. It's a bad morning I've had, or it's a bad moment that I've had. I am not having a bad day. And then do something, stop and think, what can you do to raise your vibration? Wendy and I have several little tricks that we use to raise our vibration. We love dancing. People sometimes go past our office door and wonder what on earth's happening, because when we're out of sync and not in high flow and high energy, we'll actually just put the music on and have a little dance around the office. It's the sort of thing that when I was working in the care homes, when I heard music, I always wanted to dance. So whenever you want to raise your vibration, music, dancing is a really good way to do it. In fact, make yourself a playlist. Think of all the things, the music that you love that raises your spirits. And it doesn't have to be dance music. It's any music that raises your spirits. Some people prefer Mozart, others prefer pop. Heavy rock's not a good one. Heavy rock's not recognised as raising your spirit, but every other kind of music has been shown to. Drumming is magic. I love drumming. Gregorian chants. Anything that resonates with you and makes you feel good is going to raise your vibration. And then you'll feel better and you'll be able to do things better. If you are tired, stop, have a nap. Because then after you've had that nap, you can get on. And it won't take any more time than trying to work when you're tired. Because you can't get things done, things take longer, you make mistakes, you have to keep redoing things. So stop, do a 10-minute meditation or have a nap. So you've been keeping a journal. So one of the things I'd really like you to do now is to think about, I'd like you to do a little exercise for me. In your journal, I would like you to write down 10 things that raise your spirit. 10 things that you can do to raise your vibration. It could be walking the dog. It could be music, as I said. It could be humour that we mentioned earlier on. It could be dancing. It could be readings, like I said about the Abraham Hicks earlier on. So write down a list of 10 items that are little things that you can do on a regular basis that'll just raise it. It could be that 3-minute meditation. So write down 10 items that you can use when you're not in flow. Why? Why bother to do this? Why does it matter if you're not in flow? One of the issues is we're talking about how to love yourself well. And loving yourself well means that it's your job to keep in flow as often as you can, because when you aren't in flow, your body is in the stress hormones. So think about what those stress hormones do to you. We've talked about the fight and flight and the things earlier on, but when you're not in flow, your body is in the stress hormones. Maybe low grade, you may not even be fully aware of it. We live our lives with low grade anxiety. If you go into an office where there's deadlines, if you go to a meeting where people are all meeting for the first time, if you go to networking, all those sorts of things, there's a sort of a low-grade anxiety because I don't know what I'm going to do here and all those sorts of things. So it's important to actually stop that, allow the stress hormones to become inactive and allow the body's healing to happen and to take place. Because otherwise you get into that self-fulfilling downward spiral that makes you more and more stressed as opposed to less and less. And then you don't sleep, and then it all gets worse again once you're tired. Back to that same thing. So the other thing you can do along with your 10 items is make sure that you book yourself a treat so that you've got something to look forward to. Now you have your list. What I would like you to do is every day, I would like you to do at least 3 items from that list and journal which ones you've picked and what happened. Okay? And if you find you've had one of those days where you simply didn't get round to it, didn't have time, it's important not to beat yourself up. The reason we're doing this is for you to feel good, not to berate yourself. So if you find out you've forgotten, it's okay, you've forgotten. Start again. Just simply start doing the things again. Make sure you journal it the next day. And just remember that the most important thing you can do is look after you. Okay? Now then, we have several books around this area that we absolutely love and recommend. So I'm going to give you the names of those books now so that if you wish, you can look them up or you can do some other research into the people that we're talking about. Lots of the information that I've discussed in here is provided in Super Genes, which is a book by Deepak Chopra and Rudolph Tanzi. Both of them doctors, both of them professors. The other is Joe Dispenza, You Are the Placebo. And that's what you're going to be looking at tomorrow when you look at beliefs and how beliefs impact your health, well-being and how you love yourself. The other one is Candace Pert, which is The Molecules of Emotion. That's the older book where they were first finding out about the way in which emotions impact on the cells within the body. And then the other one is Bruce Lipton, The Biology of Beliefs. Again, you're going to be looking at the beliefs tomorrow. So I wish you well. Thank you for listening to me. Enjoy your day. Go away, write that list and make sure that you do look after yourself. Bye-bye for now.